I used to think being busy meant I was successful. If my phone was ringing, my calendar was packed, and I barely had time to breathe, I told myself I was doing something right. I was 34 years old, working long hours as a project manager, always chasing deadlines, promotions, and one more paycheck that I swore would finally make life feel easier. But the truth was, the busier I got, the emptier I felt. My name is Daniel Carter, and for a long time, I was the kind of person who measured my worth by how much I could get done in a day. I'd wake up before sunrise, rush through coffee, ignore breakfast, and head straight into work mode before my feet even touched the floor. People praised me for it. "You're such a hard worker. I don't know how you do it. You're going places." And every time I heard those words, I wore them like armor. Because if I was honest, slowing down scared me. Slowing down meant I'd have to notice how disconnected I'd become from the people who actually mattered, especially my mother. My mom, Linda, lived just 20 minutes away from me, in the same little town I grew up in. She was 62, warm-hearted, funny, and the kind of person who could make any room feel like home. She had this way of smiling at you that made you feel like everything was going to be okay, even when it wasn't. She used to call me almost every Sunday, not to ask for anything, just to hear my voice. And almost every Sunday, I'd answer with the same words. "Hey Mom, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Can I call you back?" Sometimes I meant it. Most times, I forgot. I'd tell myself I'd visit next weekend, or after this big project, or once things calmed down. But things never calmed down. One Wednesday evening, after another 12-hour workday, I was driving home with my mind still buried in emails and deadlines when my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. It was my mom. I looked at the screen. For a second, I thought about answering, but then I saw the red light ahead, glanced at the stack of paperwork on my seat, and let out a tired sigh. "I'll call her when I get home," I muttered. I didn't. By the time I got home, I was too exhausted. I dropped onto the couch, still in my work clothes, and fell asleep with the TV on. The next morning, I woke up to 6 missed calls. 3 from my mom, 3 from my neighbor, Mrs. Evelyn Brooks. My stomach dropped. I called Mrs. Brooks first. Her voice was shaky. "Daniel, honey, your mom had a bad fall last night. She's okay, but she's at the hospital." I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember the drive. I only remember the pounding in my chest and the awful, crushing guilt that kept repeating the same thought over and over in my mind. She called me, and I didn't answer. When I got to the hospital, my mom was sitting up in bed with a bruised cheek and her right wrist wrapped in a brace. She looked smaller somehow, like the strong woman I'd always known had suddenly become fragile in a way I wasn't prepared to see. The moment she saw me, she smiled. Smiled. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly, like she was the one comforting me. I stood there frozen, guilt burning through me. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have answered. I should have come by. I should have..." She lifted her good hand and gently stopped me. "I'm all right, Daniel." But I wasn't. I sat beside her bed, and for the first time in years, I really looked at her. The silver in her hair, the faint lines around her eyes, the tiredness she tried to hide behind that same gentle smile. And all I could think was, how long had I been too busy to notice time moving? That day changed something in me. The doctor said she'd be fine, but she'd need someone to help her around the house for a couple of weeks. Since I was her only child, that someone was me. At first, I treated it like another task to manage. I brought my laptop to her house. I answered emails while making her soup. I sat at her kitchen table half listening while she talked because I was still glued to work messages. Then one afternoon, she caught me. I was typing furiously on my computer while she sat across from me peeling apples for a pie. She looked at me and said in the gentlest voice imaginable, "Daniel, you're here, but you're not really here." That sentence hit me harder than anything ever had. Because she was right. had spent so much of my life physically showing up while emotionally being somewhere else, always distracted, always rushing, always thinking the next thing mattered more than the moment I was in. I slowly closed my laptop, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I just sat there with her. No emails, no phone, no pretending. Just me and my mom in that warm little kitchen while sunlight spilled across the counter and the smell of cinnamon filled the room. She smiled and handed me an apple. "Now," she said, "if you're going to sit there, you might as well help." I laughed, a real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard come out of myself in years. Over the next 2 weeks, something unexpected happened. Helping my mom stopped feeling like an obligation and started feeling like a gift. I drove her to follow-up appointments. I fixed the loose porch railing she'd been asking me to look at for over a year. We sat on the back porch in the evenings drinking sweet tea and watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. She told me stories I'd somehow never heard before. Stories about how hard she worked after my dad passed away when I was young. How she used to stay up late sewing my Halloween costumes because she couldn't afford store-bought ones. How there were nights she skipped dinner so I'd have enough. I'd spent my whole life thinking I was the hardworking one, but sitting there beside her, I realized I had learned hard work from the person who had quietly sacrificed everything for me without ever asking for credit. And yet, somehow, I had become too busy to give her my time. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch, I finally said the words I had been carrying around in my chest. "Mom, I'm sorry." She looked over at me. "For what?" "For missing so much, for always saying I was busy, for acting like work was more important than this, than you." She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached over and squeezed my hand. "Oh, Daniel," she said with a soft smile. "Life has a way of teaching us what matters. The important thing is, you're here now." I wish I could explain what those words did to me. She could have made me feel guilty. She could have reminded me of every missed dinner, every unanswered call, every broken promise to visit. But instead, she gave me grace. And in that moment, I realized the lesson I had been running from my entire adult life. Success means nothing if you have no time to share it with the people you love. When my mom recovered, I made changes. Real ones. I stopped answering work emails after dinner. I turned down projects that would have swallowed every spare hour of my life. I started taking Sundays off completely. Every Sunday, I'd drive to my mom's house. Sometimes we'd cook. Sometimes we'd go to the farmer's market. Sometimes we do absolutely nothing except sit on the porch and talk. And somehow, those nothing days became the richest days of my life. A few months later, my boss called me into his office. He offered me a promotion. More money, more responsibility, longer hours. The old version of me would have accepted before he finished the sentence. But that day, I surprised even myself. I smiled and said, "Thank you, but no." He looked stunned. "Are you sure?" For the first time in my life, I answered without hesitation. "Yes, I'm sure." And I meant it, because I had finally learned that not every opportunity is worth the cost. Some things look like success from the outside, but quietly steal your joy on the inside. These days, my life looks different. It's simpler, slower, fuller. I still work hard, I still care about doing a good job, but I no longer let my career consume every piece of me. I make time for family. I call people back. I show up when I say I will. And every now and then, when my phone rings on a Sunday afternoon and I see Mom on the screen, I smile before I answer. "Hey, Mom." And now, no matter what I'm doing, I pick up. Because I learned that life doesn't always send warnings before it reminds you what matters. Sometimes the lesson comes in the form of a missed call. Sometimes it comes wrapped in guilt and regret. But if you're lucky, really lucky, you get the chance to learn the lesson before it's too late. I did. And because of that, I finally understand something I wish I had learned sooner. The people who love you are not interruptions to your life. They are your life.